By the way, Happy New Year's 2020. Woo!
Right.
Next slide. It'll be my privilege actually to lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would please ascend and say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
justice
with
for all.
liberty and justice for
Play
all.
ball.
Play ball.
Play ball. Right. Play ball. Great.
Thank you. I take those words to heart every day as a vet. I'm so proud of being a citizen and happy that our founders had this great idea that they should give us the rights to our ideas. And what are the things that we're worrying about those? How long are those rights going to stay and last? And what do we got to do to protect them? So that's a part of our discussion tonight. Next slide. So we're starting off. I've got a bit of bridged presentation tonight because we do have some great speakers that are going to take up most of our time. So we're going to alleviate the usual portions. But I do have to thank our supporters. Go ahead, Tom, I'll scroll through this. We had our speakers here before from Burr Foreman and Lindsay Brooks, entrepreneur, our 3D expert in town, Zverse, who helped so much with the personal protective devices here in town. Marty Wilson, the general manager, Flextronics, would love to build some major projects for us here in town.
And just to make a note, 2022 has started off extraordinarily well for Flextronics. They're on a hiring binge here.
Excellent.
Locally. So that contract manufacturer.
Right. Yes.
One of the hugest.
Yeah.
Next is tonight, repeating and returning. Thank you so much, Christopher. You're an ace in all these aspects and areas. I'll fully introduce you here in just a minute. We've also had Michelle Duger, a local marketing expert, and our dear friend Warren Tuttle, who was past president of the UIA, came to speak with us a couple times. Next slide. He's also our one of the authors of one of the books we like to refer to so much nowadays. We also had a local inventor whose brilliant mind has pioneered new ways to use tracking technologies in for mosquito tracking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really?
Mosquito tracking and identification. Okay.
Videographers, our own dear Dr. Thaddeus Jones, and he's the one that edits our videos for us and links them, and he's been a speaker for us here as well. Chris, we're seeing our friend Carmen who's been here. Randy, yes, you've been here before. I'm so glad you're back again. You both have been great additions and brought great information that we've been really privileged to share and happy to share with our group. Of course, we are all indebted so much to Josh for taking the stance he has and helping preserve and protect inventors' rights. And we're delighted when he spoke to us, and it blew us all away that he's got what, $500 million in sales of balloons behind him. So it's amazing to see what's going on in this world.
That was $500 million in 1 quarter.
That was
it was remarkable.
That's a great, amazing story. So with that, all that said, please allow me to introduce our keynote speaker for tonight. This is my dear friend, Michelle Nashhoff. Michelle is founder and president of Electrofab Sales, a sales agency specializing in helping manufacturers select the right processes for their products since 1985. Michelle is the author of Rebuilding Manufacturing, the first book and the 2012 edition. Rebuilding Manufacturing, the Key to American Prosperity, which is the sequel to Can American Manufacturing Be Saved? Why we should and how we can. Available on Amazon. She writes blog articles for American Job Alliance and the Made in America movement. She's currently a director on the board of the San Diego Inventors Forum and is also chair of the California chapter of the Coalition for Prosperous America, which, by the way, I was very happy and delighted to see took a stance last week on this USPTO nomination. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm sure you had a hand in getting that information across to him. So thank you very much, Michelle. That was a great move. Michelle is most recently co-founder of Industry Reimagined 2030, which she will introduce to us tonight. So with that introduction, I welcome you, Michelle. And
thank you, Adrian. Thank you very much. So Adrian has sort of outlined what he wanted me to cover tonight. So let's get started here. actually, manufacturing made America great. For over 60 years, American manufacturing dominated the globe. The goods that American manufacturers produced were responsible for turning the tide for the Allies in World War II and defeating Nazi Germany and Japan. We also helped rebuild Europe and Japan after the war with our manufactured goods, and we outproduced the Soviet Union, so we were able to win the Cold War. It also lifted millions into the middle class, and it was a stimulus for raising the level of education, so people would have the technical skills to be able to invent and manufacture products. From 1900 to 2000, the daily wage went from $2.50 a day to $96 a day. That's over a 500% increase. That's what created our large middle class, and high-paying manufacturing jobs spurred a robust and growing economy. We had little dependence on foreign nations for manufactured goods, and American companies became household names in this country as well as the world. General Motors, Ford, Boeing, IBM, Levi Strauss. And American manufacturing became synonymous with quality and ingenuity. But trade agreements started to create an unequal playing field. So that was one of the causes of the decline in manufacturing. It actually started gradually after World War II, because we started having trade agreements with single countries, and then we joined the World Trade Organization that was formed after World War II. And each country that joined the World Trade Organization, we had to make level tariffs. So we reduced our tariffs. Everybody was supposed to reduce our tariffs. But the big change occurred when NAFTA was created in 1994, and NAFTA has benefited Mexico more than the US and began the process of outsourcing jobs to Mexico. We lost probably 500,000 jobs from the outsourcing of manufacturing in Mexico in the 1990s. And then in the year 2000, China was granted most favored nation status by President Bill Clinton and allowed to join the World Trade Organization. And this started the massive outsourcing to China. And what's happened since then, we have tax policies that favor multinational global corporations, allowing them to shift their profits to other countries and encouraging them to outsource manufacturing jobs. And we had sort of set the stage for being vulnerable because we had several decades of the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s where the US quality was on the decline, and it gave overseas manufacturing an opening to US markets, which first was Japan. We remember how Japan came in and sort of took control of consumer products in the 1980s, and then followed by, South Korea and Malaysia and Vietnam. So that started it on the roll. So the result was between 2000 and 2010, we lost 5.8 million manufacturing jobs, and about 57,000 manufacturing firms closed up. Well, where did these jobs go? Well, according to the data by the US Department of Congress, US multinational corporations cut their domestic workforce in the US by 2.9 million during this decade, while increasing employment overseas by 2.4 million. So about half the jobs went overseas. So you can see this, and we were, the depth of it, we were down at the bottom of the trough in 2010 during the recession. And this created trade deficits, because when you're importing more goods than you are exporting, you have a trade deficit. And that trade deficit also reached, was increased. So we haven't had a positive trade balance. This chart only starts in 1990. The last year we had a positive trade balance was 1979. And the top 10 countries with which we have a trade deficit are China, Mexico, Japan, Germany, Ireland. I won't go down the whole list, but because those 5 represent 78% of our trade deficit. So starting in 2010, what helped save American manufacturing? 2009 was when my book came out, my first edition of Can American Manufacturing Be Saved? And we started to see some trends that helped save it. Wages started rising in China. Year over year, they were doubling from starting 2011 on. Transportation costs rose for the container ships. They went from about $500 a container to about $2,500 prior to the COVID pandemic, but now they're like at $5,000 per container. So they've doubled again. Then we started having tariffs on Chinese goods starting in 2017. Additive manufacturing and the technologies of 3D printing and other additive manufacturing technologies helped save manufacturing from going to China early on, because startup companies, inventors were able to get their 3D printed prototypes and not go to China to have their tooling made. And then what helped American manufacturers be more competitive was a combination of automation, robotics, industrial Internet of Things, and training in Lean Six Sigma. So American companies became more competitive in being able to compete in the global economy. So what manufacturers require to be competitive is they have to have favorable corporate tax rates. And we had the highest corporate tax rates in the country until they were reduced under President Trump. We need to have regulations that are not overly costly and burdensome. We need to have cheap available energy, a competitive dollar. The dollar has been overvalued in comparison to other currencies, especially Japan and in the past China, so that we were competing against, an unlevel, dollar value. Then they need access to capital for R&D and expansion. They need a reliable supply of skilled workers, and we need to have a level playing field for trade. When I wrote my book, I didn't find any organization that was doing what I thought needed to be done to save American manufacturing, because the National Association of Manufacturers, the US Chamber, were controlled by the multinational global corporations who were lobbying and promoting policies that benefited multinational corporations to the detriment of American-only manufacturers. So in end of 2010, I got connected to the Coalition for a Prosperous America by another author, and I joined in January 2011. And the Coalition is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization working to eliminate the trade deficit with smart trade and tax policies to create jobs and prosperity. It's actually a unique coalition of manufacturers, agriculture, workers, industrial labor unions like the AFL-CIO, the consumer and citizen interests working together to rebuild American manufacturing. It represents the interests of 4.1 million households through its board and members. And I worked with CPA as a volunteer and later part-time to develop a California chapter. We put on 6 manufacturing summits here in California from 2013 to 2018 around the state. I visited the offices of nearly every congressional representative, either at their district office or in Washington, D.C., because they put on an annual trade conference every spring in Washington, D.C., and I attended 6 of those. So what CPS has accomplished, because they only started in 2008. That's why I didn't know that, because they were just a brand new organization when I was writing my book, although I did read about a group of people that split off from NAM, but I didn't know what happened to them. So then I was happy to be connected. So they were, for the first probably 3 or 4 years, or well, actually from 2011 to 2017, one of our main things was to oppose the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which would have been an agreement with 11 countries, which would add 11 more countries to be able to have the privileges of doing business in America without tariffs and being able to even bid on government procurement. So they conducted an annual trade conference every year. They conducted manufacturing summits in several states, not just California, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, et cetera, even down in Florida. They then supported the Section 301 tariffs on steel, aluminum, and solar panels. For a couple of years, Dan D'Amico, past president and chairman of Nucor Steel, was actually the board president of CPA. We support country of origin labeling for online sales and beef, support Made in America Personal Protection Act since the COVID pandemic. 3 years ago, they created some committees. I'm on the Buy American Committee, Supply Chain Committee, and Tax Committee. And then last year, we also created industry-specific subcommittees for pharmaceuticals and solar panels. The Economist for CPA now publishes the Job Quality Index monthly, which shows whether we're creating high-paying jobs or low-paying jobs, and has one of the articles I did last year was about their report that showed that the Job Quality Index has really hurt minorities the most. It's really the lack of manufacturing jobs has impacted Blacks and Hispanics more than any other. And then they also now publish a reshoring initiative of how many companies are coming back to the United States. So CPA's plan to balance trade is to renegotiate trade agreements, eliminate trade cheating from transshipping. Transshipping is where a product could be made in China, shipped to Vietnam or South Korea, and then shipped to the US as if it was made in those countries instead of China. We also support establishing tariffs on all Chinese goods, not just certain ones, and then defend industries that are critical to our national security, our health of our citizens, and economic growth. We certainly learned the hard way during the COVID pandemic, especially the first year, that we were too dependent on China for our PPE products and also, equipment, medical equipment, and so forth. So we need to revitalize our domestic manufacturing industry to produce those products. And they also work to strengthen Buy American requirements for government procurement. So in my book, I cover the ways to rebuild manufacturing by developing a national manufacturing strategy to improve business and investment climate, return manufacturing through reshoring, transform company competitiveness through Lean Six Sigma principles and methods, utilize Industry 4.0 technologies and methods, and provide career technical education to replace the retiring baby boomers and prepare for the industries of the future. There's actually a chapter on each of these topics in my book, Rebuild Manufacturing. So what helped starting in 2017 was that President Trump came in with the idea of making America great. And so the first thing he did the first week was withdrew from the Trans-Pacific Partnership and the Paris Climate Accord, lowered corporate taxes to a flat tax of 21%, renegotiated NAFTA and KORUS, that's the Korean-US trade agreement, negotiated bilateral trade agreements with China, United Kingdom, and Japan, increased the enforcement of current agreements to reduce trade cheating, enforced penalties on transshipping of steel and aluminum, and established tariffs on Chinese steel, aluminum, solar panels, and other goods such as washing machines. and reformed regulation policies and eliminated onerous regulations. One of his executive orders is that for every new regulation that was formed, they had to eliminate 2 regulations. So those are some of the things that helped, which is why you saw that increase now in manufacturing employment because of those policies. So why do we need a manufacturing strategy? Well, China has one. They have a Made in China 2025 that spells out how they will dominate manufacturing in the future. They actually have a plan to become the global superpower of the 21st century by 2049. 38 manufacturing industries are declining in terms of companies and employment. So if we want to maintain a domestic manufacturing industry so we can be self-sufficient, we need to revitalize those 38 manufacturing industries that are declining. We need to prevent loss of high value added manufacturing sectors like advanced technology industries. We used to still have a positive trade balance in advanced technology until 4 years ago. And then we started slipping even into a trade deficit in advanced technology industries because China is not just the low cost area now for making consumer products. They've gotten into more high-tech products. They're advancing just like we did over the last 100 years into making, more complex, higher tech products. We also need to have a strategy to encourage manufacturers to invest in the US instead of setting up plants overseas. So what would a national strategy involve? It would have, involve taxation, trade agreements, regulation simplification, and enforcement, which level the playing field. We need to stimulate investment and defend industries critical to national security, health of citizens, and economic growth. We need to strengthen Buy American requirements for government procurement. We need to sustain our energy independence that we achieved under the Trump administration while reducing fossil fuels. We need to promote a circular economy, meaning that American manufacturers can find what they need from another American manufacturer. We need to provide non-college degree education infrastructure that includes career technical education, apprenticeships, and certifications. This type of education, thank goodness, has been on the upswing in the last several years, and that's probably one of the top 4 topics I've written about over the last several years. I've wrote about community colleges that have manufacturing training skills. I've written about apprenticeships and different, organizations that are providing certifications. So that's one of the key things that's been benefiting. And they're actually, like the Society of Manufacturing Engineers has select schools. NASA has schools that they sponsor and work with. And now all the SME schools and the NASA schools are combined together with programs that help, at the middle school and high school level to get young people interested in career technical education. So the Reshoring Initiative. Harry Mosier founded the Reshoring Initiative in 2010, April 2010, in fact. And coincidentally, I had a section on total cost of manufacturing in my first book. And I wrote an article in August of 2010 about why it was important to understand total cost of ownership. And Harry contacted me and said, "You're writing about what I just started." So he trained me in how to utilize his TCO workshop that he had developed, which quantifies some of the hidden costs of doing business offshore. And he authorized me to be his West Coast speaker because he was back in the Chicago area. And so the purpose of it is to educate people to that buying on price, the lowest price, is misleading. You're ignoring the hidden costs of doing business offshore. And to train OEMs on why to source local and how to use TCO calculator, and suppliers on how to sell local sourcing, and to encourage proximity of production to be near the customer. So purchase price variance doesn't capture all the total costs. It's eliminating, about 23% at the least. Even if you count the landed costs, including shipping, it's still not capturing everything. Only a real total cost of ownership analysis captures 100% to compare pricing. One of the big problem is though that it's difficult to do an accurate total cost analysis if you're doing standard cost in accounting. You need to convert to lean accounting. And I had the pleasure of being a speaker at the Lean Accounting Summit 5 years in a row, where I learned a lot about the benefits of lean accounting. So here are the top reasons for companies to reshore. And I give a total different presentation on reshoring and give lots of company examples and why they reshored and what the benefit was. But freight costs, obviously, that's number one. Total cost, delivery, inventory costs, rising wages, supply chain interruption. Remember about with the Fukushima disaster, nuclear disaster, how there was products that you couldn't get from Japan, like black paint that was used in the automotive industry. Intellectual property risk, quality rework, warranty, communication. You're talking to people with, English as a second language, and then even green considerations. There are some companies that want to be known as a green company to sell made in, and benefiting made in USA, and that they're green and helps them sell their certain type of products. So those are some of the reasons people have come back. And here's the job growth that we've had because of reshoring. So we've, and the latest, I don't have the chart for 2020, but Harry told me that it's now actually about 1 million jobs that have now reshored, according to the latest data I got from Harry. So we have some tailwinds that are encouraging reshoring. Some of the ones that have been now in effect for the last 11 years are reducing total cost of ownership, rising wages in low wage countries, quality rework warranty, speed and agility of delivery. If you want to be a just-in-time vendor, you can't rely on a slow boat from China. Intellectual property risk. China does not honor our patents, and you may tool up products in a plant in China, and they are selling a competitive product out their back door because they're not honoring your patent. So then you have the complexity of communication. But there's new trends that are encouraging more people to reshore. Supply chain interruptions, which we've certainly see present now and have been experiencing for several months. Consumer Buy American preferences, and environmental and societal considerations. Coincidentally, I had a call today from ThomasNet, and she said their latest survey of manufacturers that are part of ThomasNet, that 84% of their manufacturers are looking at reshoring if they haven't already done so. That's a big number. That's increased by 30% in the last 2 years, because it was actually 54% in 2019. So how can we rebuild manufacturing? Lean manufacturing is very important. We need to build world-class competitiveness through people that are trained, to have an organizational culture that engages people to continuously make improvements. We need to have a leadership mindset and behaviors that provide, which deeply respect, inspire, and develop people to improve performance. We have tools and practices to eliminate waste and improve quality. That's what Lean Six Sigma means. Shop floor focus where the work is done. A customer first. Provide what they want when they want it. So Industry Reimagine is going to help adapt and scale lean for small to medium manufacturers. That's one of our first mission projects to work on. So the benefits of an engaged workforce is you have productivity gains of at least 30%. You have revenue gains of 15 to 30%. You have more customer loyalty. Your turnover of your employees is lower. You have fewer accidents, sick days, and theft. So that's according to the Ohio State University for the middle management. So we can build also rebuild through using Industry 4.0 to build world-class competitiveness through data, real-time production control, and the connected worker. We have, internet connected sensors, artificial intelligence, cloud computing that, handles the data more efficiently and faster, real-time computing at the edges that control individual equipment and entire production lines. Connected worker has visibility where the worker has visibility to production processes and augmenting his skills through mobile devices like iPads and cell phones, etc. Advanced manufacturing, generative design, 3D printing, additive manufacturing. There's so many. There actually is additive manufacturing magazine now because the additive manufacturing industry is changing so rapidly that it's you have to keep up with it. I try to take, before COVID, I tried to take a workshop either online or at a trade show about additive manufacturing so I could keep up with the technology. And we would have speakers come to the San Diego Inventors Forum to give us updates at least every other year about new advances in additive manufacturing. Career technical education. We need to provide the technical skills for the current jobs plus the future new collar jobs that are for trending jobs. And with urban manufacturing, I was really, one of the stories about reshoring is that we now have a garment industry again in Los Angeles because of the advances in technology and automation and robotics. So they were able to restart the garment district or revitalize it right in the heart of downtown LA to be able to make made in USA clothes again. So in the last year now, we have Build Back Better Employment Economic Development Agency grants, and maker spaces is the new way to be able to, individuals to get shop type classes. We were talking to the owner of the largest makerspace in the LA area in Irvine, and he has shop classes for kids ages 10 to 15. So they can utilize and do learn how to use equipment and do projects. And so that's one of the things that maker spaces provide is the ability to teach both adults and children and how to use manufacturing equipment. And they're starting to get to the point where the education is sufficiently complete to be able to get certifications for different industries, like for the welding and certifications under NIMS. So that's the new trend for makerspaces, to be able to provide education that will actually get the person a certification. So Industry Reimagine is exactly 3 days old as a nonprofit corporation. So the purpose of it is to envision a change from where we right now have, the viewpoint of inevitable decline, to change it to one of vibrant opportunity. And our purpose is to be revitalized and be globally competitive and advance societal interests. And our vision by 2030, through our collaboration with other existing organizations and people, is to have 50,000 world-class domestic manufacturers, which would be about a 10 times increase, an additional 5 million people in the manufacturing workforce, reduce our environmental footprint to supply US goods by 30%, and consumer purchases of US made goods increased by $500 million. So those are our long-term goals to complete our mission. So, you know, specifically for how we can help inventors and entrepreneurs is through our network that we're creating. We will be able to, you know, help people locate various domestic sources for rapid prototyping, as well as low and high volume production, make connections to the maker spaces that will be part of our network and incubators, and make connections to US inventor forums from our collaboration with US inventors and the South Carolina and San Diego inventors forums and others, and make connections to appropriate government agencies for some of those Build Back Better EDA grants. So that's what we're looking at as far as what we are planning to do within the next, you know, next couple of years. So getting started. So that's, and, you know, you can, if you're connected to other organizations that would be interested in having me as a speaker, I have a bunch of different topics besides this one. So there's my contact information. So that's. Okay.
Wonderful. 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 My gosh. Gosh, Michelle, thank you so much. Comments, questions?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about, you said with respect to, if I remember correctly, I'm not sure if you used the term high tech, but 4 years ago, we switched from having a positive trade balance to a negative.
Oh, in the advanced manufacturing, that's high technology goods that are classified as advanced manufactured goods.
So basically, 4 years ago, we went from what would you call it? Positive trade balance?
Yeah, positive trade balance to a negative trade balance. We had a negative trade balance in every other kind of good,
Right.
but we still had a positive trade balance in advanced manufactured goods until 4 years ago.
And so that means that when that shifted around, they were, up until that point, we were still producing, I guess we were still exporting as much as we were importing, give or take, in those areas?
We were exporting more advanced manufacturing goods than we were importing.
Okay. It's kind of interesting that only occurred 4 years ago.
Right. Well, that's because it took a while for China to catch up on technology.
Right.
And develop, and they did, and develop their own, and especially in medical and some of these areas.
Right. Yeah. By stealing our intellectual property.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
exactly.
and of course, a big part of that too is what they've done, as you know, part of why they've strengthened their own patent system, which they have, is to attract startups on Chinese technologies in China, which is a big problem. And that's this really supports what we've been telling people.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, we saw this case recently where the company here was trying to get an MRI machine patented, and our US patent system wouldn't allow that. They went to China.
Oh, no.
I mean, we have lost the edge on leading technologies, and in semiconductor manufacturing and other areas, they have developed their manufacturing expertises and skills, as everything does evolve, to levels well beyond what we have capabilities of now. So anyways,
yeah,
it was
problem.
Yeah, your reshoring initiative, there's so many points you touched on there. One of them that's kind to our heart here and dear to our heart is what Tom is here and working with the Midlands Tech, and he'll be presenting here a little bit later, is what the Midlands Tech community, Midlands Tech College here is doing with the programs they have to help in a lot of those areas. So, but that'll be for Tom. Thank you, Michelle. Anybody else have a comment or question you want to ask Michelle? Michelle, would you please, Michelle, please put your email address in the chat, please. And Angel, yes, what's your question, Angel?
Oh, I actually have a couple of questions. But I won't say them all because I'm kind of hoping I have another chance to talk to Michelle in the future. Some of these questions. So I would like you to confirm. It was told to me that China actually subsidizes their manufacturing. So
oh, yes, definitely. In fact, very few companies in China are totally private companies. There's a government investor, whether it's an individual member of the government that invests individually, or they're getting subsidies from the government. So they subsidize all of their industries in one way or another. So, and that's been from the get-go, that's how they grew their manufacturing industry, by subsidizing them.
Now, we're a capitalist society, but we don't subsidize startups. What's wrong with that picture?
Right.
Next question, Angel.
Oh, well, I'm so happy that you started the organization that you did to help, bring them, improve and help bring back manufacturing to the United States. I love it so much, and I think it's so important. My question to you is, what does a young advocate with a lot of energy and a lot of time, what can he do to actually help support this and just talk it out and speak to whoever? Or does that require calling congressmen, calling representatives, or is there anything that we can do working with you specifically in your organization?
We'd be happy to explore that in a Zoom call with you. So Doug and I would be happy to explore that. Right now, we sort of feel that the Coalition for a Prosperous America is working on the policy issues in Washington, D.C. They're on the right side of, a bunch of different new bills that have been introduced to, country of origin labeling. And, so we want to work in the area that nobody else is working in right now. Because right now,
Chris, I hear you volunteering. I love the spirit. Right on.
Right. We were definitely interested in having young people involved. So
excellent. You are the future, absolutely. Angel. You are the future, right. And so few. We're looking to you to carry the torch and the baton, moving these things forward. You have the right still to prosper from the labors of your mind. Work with us to protect that. We got to keep the ball rolling here. Any other comments or question? Want to get Michelle, your dear, thank you so much. I'm sure we'll come back around with some more comments later, and we'll get this all posted so we can share it very soon. Our next speaker tonight, Chris, are you ready? Chris, it's an honor again to see you back here and talk to you again. I know you're, as your profile states, I'm happy to read this, as an accomplished executive, 33 years experience in international business leader in automotive, aerospace, custom engineered parts, manufacturing, and sales. Recognized as a dedicated business leader, Chris was instrumental in the BMW startup and success in the United States, and was responsible for 2 plants with sales revenues over 170 million. The Greenville operation here in South Carolina is a world leader in just-in-time manufacturing. Additionally, Chris is listed in patents held by Ford as a chief design engineer, and was responsible for 4 plants with sales revenues of 180 million. Chris served on the executive supplier council for BMW, Ford, and Toyota, and his patents are inventions having to do with gas caps and the products that are seen and revolutionize the industry. He's had some amazing national media exposure, Good Morning America, and most recently on the final season of Shark Tank, where he nailed it and scored a great deal. And I welcome you back, Chris, tonight to talk about what your thinkings are about making things in America. Why is it important? And how are you helping inventors do that sort of stuff? So welcome, Chris.
Thanks, Adrian. I appreciate that. Yeah, lots happened since what you just read. So yeah, I was fortunate enough to get on the Shark Tank, which is not an easy task, as you can imagine. And I did it in the COVID environment. There was over 120,000 applicants, and they picked 50 from my group. So it was even more, I guess, amazing that when you think about, we had it locked in a room for 10 days, couldn't even go in the hallway, pitched on the 11th day. And all that started with leading to Made in USA. I had a 2-week window to get one of my products into Walmart. And it's, you know how that is in retail, it's impossible. We had a mold made. We didn't have any resin. We didn't have labels. We didn't have fulfillment center, nothing. We didn't even have a box to put it in. So I said, okay, we got 2 weeks. Either we do it now or we probably won't get another look at it for a year at least, and maybe never. So we made it happen. You know, we just, I think the beauty of what I can do in the US and be competitive, a lot of the things that Michelle talked about with lean, that's what I've been living my whole life, right? I mean, I was taught really well at a BMW and Ford Motor Company environment. In automotive, it's incredibly aggressive. When you're building cars at that level, you're building, you know, just in time, truly just in time, meaning I get an order from a picker from the main plant that goes to the assembly line for that component. So if it's instrument panel, I get codes for instrument panel, glove box, blogger boxes, seats, door panels. You have, at that point, the clock starts ticking in all these different little cells. You essentially have an hour and a half to get it built and over to the assembly plant. Within 2 hours, it's on a vehicle. So you can only imagine, you know, without getting to all the specific technical details, how much work has to happen from systems right through the efficiencies of a plant to make sure that the quality of that part with the right options is on a vehicle. Because if you don't, it doesn't, if it shows up at that section and you don't have your product available, the line shuts down at $1,100 a minute. Well, as an executive, you don't last long in that role. It's like being a coach in football, right? You start losing, you get fired. Same thing here. You shut lines down, you don't exist. So I took everything I learned over the years, and I was director of engineering for Ford. So, you know, so I decided that I was not going to go abroad on any of my products. And I've got products and innovation that I do in the US, I do in New Hampshire, I do all the tooling. So in the same building that I manufacture injection molding, tooling, I also do the injection molding. And when I do the injection molding, I look at all the value add that I could bring to the product line at the press. So with that, I've already got labor assigned to the press. So now I'm not adding any additional labor for anything that's done outside. So while the product's molding, if I need to put on a label or pads and put it in a box, I do it while the press is in a closed position and the labor is available. They're not standing around. Right, they're actually working. I mean, that's a big time BMW trait that they look at things very differently. The Germans with real estate, they want it in small sections, they want streamlined, and it's drilled into you. And you're compared amongst the world globally. I actually, when I took over the plant in Carolina, we were losing about $1 million a month. I had a year to get it under control. Within a year, I was making $1 million a month, so I flipped it. Right. And when I start really streamlining the process, tooling, changeovers on the presses, we were making about 2.1 million a month net. It's after corporate's paid off. So all of those things, it made it easy for me because now you got a big company, right? You got a big company. You're not just doing injection molding. You're doing assembly work. You're doing vacuum packing. You're doing a lot of different things. Now I'm just doing that in injection molding. So I've eliminated all that waste. I've eliminated all the trucking costs, all of the logistics costs. I brought my labor costs way down. From the press, it goes either to a warehouse inside, again, the same building, or it gets shipped. So there's no more traveling. So you're literally, when I was on Shark Tank, orders went off the chart. I mean, we had 5,000 orders, just flipped off the chart. I had some in inventory. As I was shipping, I put the tool back in, molding. We were shipping as we were molding. I didn't miss a beat. So I can, in most cases, build to order.
So let me interject if I can ask you a couple of questions. So I hear what you're saying. We do the same thing. We use local suppliers and local vendors to eliminate lead times and those sort of things. How vertically integrated are you? Do you do especially because Angel and I are both in the electronics manufacturing sector. How vertically integrated are you?
So in the plant, we have a whole engineering group. We can do development, design. We have 5 different 3D printers. We have a complete tooling shop, so we can do any type of tooling. And all of that is typically done. I always quote 6 to 8 weeks. We're right now, we're typically getting them done in 4 weeks. You get that done overseas, it's 12 to 18 weeks. And then you got the whole delivery time with what's going on now. So
that's full on hard tooling.
Yeah, it's injection molding tooling. It's all
Are you
our
getting
tooling.
are you getting into any of the 3D molds, making the molds out of 3D printing?
We do product out of 3D, nothing out of the
Yeah.
mold yet. Yeah,
Right,
We, do all,
yeah.
we have a 8-foot 3D printer, and we have the little one, so we can do all different materials, polypropylene, ABS, a pretty complete array.
It's
But again,
amazing.
the beauty of it, it's all under one building.
Right.
I can't
right.
stress that enough. Because
about,
you know, when after we aired on Shark Tank, I was in New Hampshire, and that was part of the plan, was to do all the media coverage before Shark Tank, then air it, and then start shipping. I went to the plant, and we just it was almost overwhelming in the beginning.
Imagine.
And you quickly find the way to do it at the shipping station to streamline it. We were doing 600 to 700 a day with 2 people, literally at the ship station, printing out labels, basically going in padded envelopes. At that point, the product was done, right? It was already, any of the labels, any of the silicone feet, that everything was done at the press. So there was no additional work. So we were basically taking product and shipping it. I mean, the post office was like, what is going on right now? So we had to help them, how they came multiple times at the plant to pick up, then we dropped off at the end of the day in these big postal bags. But my point is here is to be competitive, and not everything is made to be in the US. It is what it is. You start getting into heavy labor, then you got to really look at, labor you can't replace, right? If you need to have labor, it's a cost associated with it. But in areas of not having to truck it to a warehouse, not having to truck it to a fulfillment center, all of that being done in the same building, and with it all being done within, 20 yards, 30 yards of each other, it just makes, we're extremely competitive. So competitive that I got an email from Damon's group, which is a $6 billion group. That's the fellow who I ended up, from Shark Tank, ended up signing a deal with. They want me to be exclusively their manufacturer for all new deals.
Wow. Hey, I saw that news. I saw that report. Congratulations. That is huge.
Yeah, so that was that's definitely a big deal. And
well, again, that leads to more opportunities and brings me back around still, because a lot of the specialties you just described are in the mechanical manufacturing. The other specialty end is electronics, cabling, harnessing, circuit boards, all that stuff. Do you have those capacities or outsourcing them? By the way, we are volunteering as we speak.
Yeah, no, I really don't. I mean, we're truly an injection molder, right? So really high precision tooling, high precision injection molding, all types of material from polyethylene, polypropylene, different blends of ABS, different blends of ethylene, even silicone levels, PETs. So there's all just HIPs, all different array of plastics, colors. We have our own test. We've actually been approved by Walmart. Matter of fact, I'm the only one in the Shark Tank group now that's been approved for U.S. manufacturing at Walmart. So they actually
freaking huge, dude.
Yeah, they did an audit on us, and we passed. The only major we received was on our quality checks when we do our quality PPAPs and all the dimensionals. We don't send out the third party. We do it all in house. Well, they want you to send it outside, which we didn't do it, and we still passed. So, I mean, that's an option, but we don't need it because we have all of the data right in house, and we could support it. So they allowed it.
Hey, Christopher, could you have your own post office? I mean, could you put a post office in a corner of your building? And
well, essentially when we use ShipStation, it's kind of ironic. We have a post office set up already, because in ShipStation, all of the different postal services are put in there, and they give you the best rates. So when you know the best rates, now you make every one of the shipping for that one product specific. So when we ship one super potty trainer, there's a preset. You ship 2, there's a preset. 3, there's a preset. Now, typically we don't ship more than 4 unless we're doing retail. That's going on a LTL, a pallet. But essentially that's what we have. And that notifies the post office when they come get it. So they'll come the normal morning run at 11. And then if they see it, I'll give them a printout of the day, what we plan on doing. They'll come multiple times throughout the day. So it kind of is a little small post office.
Yeah, sure.
So Chris, run us through how this all works. Let's say I'm your next Judy Abrams, excuse the looks, but I've come in with this great new item that you're gonna injection mold for me, and we're gonna change the whole world of whatever that market is. What are your steps? How do we start? How do we get it
It
going?
just depends on where you are with it. Judy was in it for a while, and then it just kind of sat. And she called me one day and said she had this product and she had no money. You know how that goes. So I took it. I mean, the next day I paid for patents because her patents were going to expire. I paid for the patents. I paid for a trademark. I mean, my wife was like, "What are you doing right now?" I said, "I don't know. I got a funny feeling here. You know, I don't do that with every product. I have a feeling, a good feeling."
Yeah.
And then I really funded the whole thing. I mean, you're talking like $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 because we got it into Walmart in that 2-week period. Then they want every order 7,000 units, and then COVID hits. So it's like, okay, Lord have mercy. COVID hits, the sales chart goes like 15,000 units a week and goes straight off the chart down. I mean, like, you know, when COVID hit, I'm in Walmart going, there's nobody in these stores now other than the food section. So it was a little scary, but that 2-week window, getting it at Walmart, and it wasn't even in the right area. It was as seen on TV. It should have been in the baby area, but it was a quick way to get in. That sales was enough to get us on Shark Tank, and then have me do my my magic act.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talking.
Well, that's
you know?
That is a great story. I'm happy to hear that you're the kind of person that does that, Chris. For I as well, after all the hundreds of people, there's once in a while you get that feeling, and you're gonna make your own personal bet on it. You bet on the come. You do the whole job for free. You push it out in a couple of weeks, and then you're on the cover
I've
of
done
some
that a lot.
magazine.
Boy. I've helped Laren Lockwood, who was on Shark Tank. Helped her quite a bit. I helped Raina, who does this horse feeding thing. She had a supplier, couldn't make good parts. I said, you know, it's a risk. Send me the tool. I don't know what the tool looks like, but send it to me. I'm not going to charge anything. We ran it, we fixed it, and now she was going to lose all of her business. She saved all of her business. So, I mean, you know.
Well, generally speaking, though, if somebody's got a new idea, a new product, do you sit down and do an evaluation?
I'll start right from the beginning.
Yeah,
I'll look at if they have any intellectual any properties. I'll check to see, like, where are they? I get people asking me, you know, I have a yellow sticky sketch. How fast can you get into retail?
Yep.
And then you got to really educate them and saying, like Walmart's not buying ideas, right? They're buying proven concepts that are in retail packaging. And then I have this whole process. I have a complete process and steps. I even in the early stages, we'll send it to them, show them what it looks like, what other jobs have cost. You know, if they have something that's similar to what I've already done, here's what a tool costs, here's what packaging costs, here's what engineering work looks like. I mean, I just walk them through each step. There's about 15 different items, and I just make sure they're as educated as I can get them up front. I don't charge them any fees up front.
Yeah.
I try to walk them through it. Then when we start getting serious, when you want to build a tool, obviously it's going to cost some money.
Yeah, we got a very similar approach. No charges, to take a look at reviewing, seeing where they're at, where they're trying to go, what it's going to take to get there, and come up with some plans. Tom here was with me. He follows the same suit and offers very professional advice after years of experience too. So, but that's great that we do this for free, because that's the right way to do it. Because some people have something that shouldn't be developed or can't be done anywhere near what they can imagine can be done. You got to be realistic with them and show them what's going to be realistic. Well, Chris, so far so good. Let's go to the next stage here. We've talked about how you're doing it. Just philosophically, in a big 50,000 view, why do you think we should keep manufacturing here in the U.S.?
To me, it's, I mean, look at BMW, right? BMW is the largest exporter in the world now.
Wow.
I mean, just think about if a company like BMW thought it was a good idea to move into the States back in the 90s.
Yeah.
They saw something, right? So now, like that plant, when I was there was 800 people. We were doing, I first started 50 cars a day, and the goal was to do 2,000 a day. I think I was there just under 5 years. I mean, you just see the growth, 18 different nationalities, went from 2-hour tool changes to 10 minutes. I mean, the whole process over evolution to losing $1 million a month as startup to making a couple million a month. When you look at a company just like BMW alone, this whole Greenville area, even when I was here, was blowing up economy-wise. Now, you can't believe what you see. It's 15 to 18% growth year over year for 20 years. The housing developments. I mean, I've never seen an area like this where they're putting up $1 billion centers downtown. They're putting in 60-acre parks for kids and walking dogs and restaurants. It's just incredible how much it blew up the economy and how much it's still going. It's like unbelievable. So to me, it's not even an option, right? It's like, this is where I was born. This is where I'm not selling out anywhere. US is where I live. US is where I feed my kids. US is where my kids work. Why would I give that to someone? I mean, I've run plants at one point, and even in Mexico.
Yeah.
And everyone talks about all this different cost advantages. They're not as straightforward as you think. People say, oh, my piece price is a little bit lower. Yeah, it might be. You got to get it here. You got to get it in a package. And then you got to ship it to a warehouse. And somebody's got to fulfill it. Who's paying for all that? Those are all the hidden costs that no one wants to talk about. In the end, it's the real cost. And when you look at the scale, there's no comparison. Yeah, if you get into labor and textile, that's a little tricky because you can't compete with labor when you're paying somebody $25 an hour and you're paying somebody $25 a day. I mean, Mexico plants are getting paid $10 a day. When you talk straight up, like what I'm doing, I'm competitive across the board with anyone.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I mean, think about me being on Shark Tank, getting 5,000 orders, not having inventory. What do? You're done, right? I can build to order. I can ship immediately. I can redo packaging. Like, everything is immediate. I'm not waiting for someone. I mean, the best one is a tidy hook. I'll give you a 2-minute version of this. Vernon was going to go to China, and I said, why? He said, well, it's cheaper. I said, who told you it's cheaper? The guys that selling it to you? So I convinced him to keep it in the States, showed him the price. We're more competitive. We did the tooling in 6 weeks, really complex tooling, like the living hinge, the convolutes, very technical. He was stuck on polypropylene. I said, it's not great on cold. He said, nope, that's what we're using. So we did it. We molded it in polypropylene, had a hard time flowing it. It's 20 inches. You had to put another ring gate. Think about having a tool across the broad, not having to put another ring gate. We did that within 2 hours. But this is the best one. We did cold temperature testing in the clip where it fits around the headrest, snapped. You're out of business. Quality is 2 things. You either rework it or you fix it. You can't. The clip broke. So that means it's never, all the inventory is scrapped. So we were able now in the plant to throw some different type of ethylenes and get a polyethylene blend to get the cold temp and the high temp. Did it in 1 day, right in the plant. Problem solved, literally in 1 day. Think about having to go back to China, for example, and redesign it. Let me get it to my engineering team. I'll talk to you in 30 days. Let me send you some sample. That's another 2 weeks. You know, and meanwhile, we have our orders that we got to ship. We did all this in a day. So, I mean, he raves about it now because he's the guy that wanted to spend $100,000 in inventory and get it shipped here so we can start running. I said, let's make sure all the stuff is done correctly first.
Well,
he still talks about it to this day.
You know,
that was a lifesaver for him.
Those are excellent examples. I could share very similar stories of products that we ramped up in 2 weeks to 350 a day, and it becomes a Fortune 500 product of the year. Our big product that we did with the infant simulators, yeah, that went to China. It was a 6-month disaster that cost millions of dollars. We've witnessed it. We've seen it. I agree with you 100%. I'm so happy to hear you share with so much passion that these issues are very real. And we talk to inventors all the time that, again, they have this misnomer that, yeah, China's cheaper. It's not. Just as Michelle pointed out earlier, the costs are hidden. And she didn't even get into the political aspects about slave labor, environmental laws, and developing the world's largest army. But those are just the economics.
And half the people you talk to that are actually manufacturing, you don't even know who you're talking to. I've been to plants there where you go into someone's basement, there's a light bulb, it's under dirt, and there's some injection press in the corner. Right. But they make it look like they're like this world-class manufacturer. They give you great samples, and then you start doing production runs, and you run into a nightmare. You know, I love like Josh, right? And Randy knows this. Josh is so passionate about what he does. I'm so passionate about made in the US because I know it can be done. So
Yeah.
when I start hearing people tell me about cost and it's cheaper, it's not. It's a misconception. When you add up all the costs, especially getting into retail, it's definitely not. And think about this in retail. You've got to pay for your mold, you got to pay for your product before it even ships. By the time it gets here, I don't even know what it is now. It used to be 3 months, 4 months. It's maybe 6, 7, 8 months now. Your cash is tied up. Then you get it over here, you fulfill it to retail. They hold it for 90 to 120 days.
Yeah.
So your cash is tied up 6 to 9 months. I don't have
Yeah.
that problem.
Yeah. All righty, Chris. Well, hey, this has been excellent. Exactly on point what I was hoping we'd be discussing tonight. Again, a shout out when it comes to electronic assembly needs. You've got an East Coast and West Coast source now that we're happy to help at least quote on things for you. We are as competitive as well. I'm sharing with you too, back there in California, when I was doing the last medical device I did, we found our tooling onshore for better prices, the turnaround times, absolutely everything you mentioned are factors that are so important. So Chris, thank you again for coming on. We didn't get a chance to talk much about UIA, but it was interesting last night to see the progressions that are being. Welcome aboard. I wish you lots of luck there as new vice president of the UIA, and hopefully your organizations can support the inventor community as more than ever before.
Yeah, I think you know me by now, Adrian. I'm pretty structured, and I like accountability, right? And you see, like the people that I'm putting on now, that worked with or I know really well, that have been really successful, and you're not successful by accident, right? It's planned path. So there's a lot of new people on that board now that I think will help us in different areas. Yeah,
that's an all-star advisory board. I hope they actually do commit and actually put some work in it as well, because then their skills could they'll really benefit us.
Absolutely, 100%.
Hey, one thing that I really like about what Christopher's saying about, kind of being in control of all the different aspects, right? Mm-hmm. For an inventor, that's great advice too, as you know, as we all know, as an inventor, a lot of inventors, where they go wrong is they say, well, I'm going to call up some company because they say they can do it all for me. Well, that goes wrong almost all the time, right? And so there's a certain amount of taking responsibility and just doing, learning how to do the different parts, and maybe getting some help where you need, but kind of getting to where you're in control of all the different aspects from the very beginning. So really like what you're doing there.
I agree. I mean, especially imagine selling yourself on Shark Tank and then not being able to deliver.
Oh, geez.
That would be the embarrassment. That would be a career-ending embarrassment for us.
Yeah, and a lot of these people, just really quick, I'll close with this, Adrian. A lot of these guys that are talking to people overseas, they're just a broker, or there's somebody in the middle. Right. They're not even dealing with the plant at the plant level. Yeah. So it's like a sales guy selling you on somebody's capability and hoping they're going to deliver on it. I can't tell you how many horror stories I heard. So
there's a guy in the middle making the commission, right?
Yeah, and, exactly.
Who knows?
Not delivering. Then blaming the plant later. Yeah. All right, thanks, Ray. Appreciate that.
Right on, Christopher. Right on. Thank you, bro. Thank you so much. That was excellent stuff. I'm sure we'll circle back around with more comments and questions. And again, it's all recorded, so we'll be able to cut this up and share it. Again, great information and passion. God bless you, Christopher. Let's keep it made in the USA. Absolutely. Hey, our next speaker, our final speaker tonight, I'm delighted, Tom Ledbetter. Tom, thank you so much for a year and a half now hosting us and helping support our organization and our group. For those of you that don't know, Tom is himself exceptionally experienced, going back to many great things that he's done in his career. VP of Operations for Pirelli Cables and System Graphic, Production Operations and Engineering Manager for Cisco Systems Graphic. He's here with Midlands Technical College now going on 19 years. Some amazing positions like the Vice President here for the Center for Entrepreneurial Success, and currently the Associate Vice Provost, Center for Entrepreneurship and Educational Support. That's a long title to have on a shirt though.
Yeah, you can almost get it there.
Almost get
some
on
of it on the back. on the sleeve.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as there will be, I'm just so honored and privileged, and thank you so much, Tom, for coming on tonight and speaking to us a little bit more about your perspectives about what's going on, especially here in South Carolina. Like Chris pointed out, it's in a booming economy, and Midlands Tech is certainly a center of all of this activity. And Tom?
Okay, I'm gonna share a screen with you right quick. The if I wanted to build an essence what's going on in manufacturing in South Carolina right now, I would go right here and share this screen with you and see, you can see what I'm looking at here. Transform your tomorrow. See that right there?
Wow.
0 tuition and fees for spring of 2022.
Yeah, that's awesome.
This money came down from the federal government. This is one of these things that actually works right, Chris and Randy. It works right. The money came down from the feds to South Carolina. Our governor said, we're going to take X millions of dollars and dedicate it to the technical college system in South Carolina for them to provide 0 tuition and fees, 0 fees, to fill the skill set gaps that we've got in South Carolina, critical skill set in manufacturing, all right? Well, that typically goes into what we call our career ed area. We found some money from our money that came down from the state, from the feds, and said, we're just not going to do it for one section of our students, we're going to do it for all of our students. We saw, as a result of this, a 36% increase in first-time applications from students here in South Carolina. All right. Now, that there's a difference between Randy, to shake your head. I'm glad you do that, but there's a difference between saying I'm coming and actually showing up. All right. So we've had for our regular credit classes started yesterday. In the first week, we are seeing a 6 to 8% increase over last year this time, right? That's the first time in 8 years we've seen a year-over-year increase. It's all been decreases for the last 8 years. And there's lots of different reasons about that. But what we didn't see was what I saw today. I'm coming in the building this morning where I'm in the Advanced Manufacturing Skilled Crafts building here at the Midlands Tech College campus. We're out near the airport, Chris. So when you come into Columbia, come see us. Mm-hmm. But we've got a robotics lab here and an electrical lab here. I watched 23 students come from a classroom upstairs into the lab downstairs. And last semester, there might have been a half a dozen students in that class. Cool. Right? Now, you don't know whether they're going to make it or not. You don't know whether they got, whether they've got the inherent skill set and drives to get there, because that's a tough curriculum. We're training to be industrial electricians. We're training to be the types of people, Chris, that you need in your manufacturing operation, to support personnel to keep things moving. But this is where it comes to and comes to root. We're seeing this right now, and unfortunately, this is one-time money. All right, so you don't start new programs and you don't hire new people to go, because it's only one-time money. But our system has gone back through our state offices, and we have made proposals to the state of South Carolina to continue this for a minimum of 3 years. Give us 3 years of this and let us see what we can do for manufacturing in the state of South Carolina. All right, so that's where we're going. That's where we are and where we're going. When I look at this activity, you see this is our main web page, and I've been speaking to groups for 8 weeks now since we've gotten this money, and it seems like everywhere I go somewhere, I've seen run into somebody that hasn't seen it, that should have seen it. So it's a constancy of communication. What I wanted to get to was there, the South Carolina Department of Commerce has a website that Chris, I know you've probably seen before, but it is where economic development and recruitment takes place in the state of South Carolina. It's the group that got BMW here when they and I was a manufacturing manager in a plant 3 hours away in North Carolina, and we were losing people to BMW 3 hours away because of just the opportunity. First automotive manufacturer in South Carolina, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You've got 46 counties in the state of South Carolina. Every county has an economic development director. Every county has industrial sites, and all of these industrial sites are loaded into a database there in the South Carolina Department of Commerce that you can look at. You've also got the incentives structure in the state of South Carolina, which is made up of two parts. First are statutory incentives that have to do with revenue and new job creation and job tax credits and everything else that you get. The second is property taxes and tax liens and tax abatements, et cetera, for bringing a company here or expanding a company. All the incentives in the state of South Carolina run on the basis of the amount of capital invested and the number of jobs created. And so there's an incentive there to bring what I refer to as big game hunting. You know, they go out, you know, everybody at the Department of Commerce is looking for where the next BMW is coming from. Well, we landed one several years ago. It's called Volvo, you know, and it's landed down in North Charleston in South Carolina, in Summerville. At one time, now this is prior to COVID, this is early 2019, there were 35 people a day moving into Summerville, South Carolina.
A day.
35 people a day moving into Summerville. And that, and Chris mentioned it, and I want to go back and re-amplify that. The Greenville corridor, which is the I-85 corridor from Charlotte through South Carolina, it runs from Charlotte to Atlanta. That Greenville corridor is the industrial heartbeat of the state of South Carolina. You know, you've got your Michelins, you've got your BMWs, you've got clothing equipment, sports manufacturers, you've got golf ball manufacturers, golf equipment manufacturers. They're all there. The Low Country, which is down around Charleston, now is Charleston's considered what was referred to as the Silicon Harbor, right? Because they are investing in and moving IT firms into prominence in that area. And here in South Carolina, here in the central part of South Carolina, where we're located, we still got too much government influence, you know, for all practical purposes. And everybody here looks at opportunities. So he says, well, I want to start a business. I want to do this. Well, you know, how many government grants are available to get me started? We don't have that entrepreneurial mindset here in the state that you've got in the upstate or down in the Low Country. But we do have a formidable economic development capability in South Carolina, and which is recognized around the world. We can build and field a workforce for you. Okay, and if Chris was still in New Hampshire and he wanted to move his operation down to South Carolina, and he said, I'm going to invest $10 million and I'm going to hire 100 people, we would invest in him the money to hire trainers, to send trainers from South Carolina to his location in New Hampshire, have them train in his operations, them come back down here. The state of South Carolina would then work with him to hire 50, 60 employees, run them through the training program, and he'd have the option of which ones to keep and which ones not to keep. And all of that is no cost to the manufacturer, because that's our part of getting you set up and getting you going. And if you moved into an existing facility, there's a tax credit for that. If you needed to build a new facility, there's property tax abatements and everything else that go along with it. We play a very competitive incentive game here in South Carolina.
I'm going to attest to this because last year I did an analysis to figure out what my costs were in my San Diego plant versus what I could do if I moved it out here. Bottom line on the whole thing was I could see a 60% reduction in my overhead expenses and costs if I had transferred things out here. As I mentioned, though, I've got some families and people there that were just too entrenched into to rip up their whole lives. But that's an excellent pitch, and it shows how committed South Carolina is now to bringing and attracting new business, and it has been succeeding with Neference Pharmaceuticals and Van Robotics and some of these other great new startup companies that are leading edge technology things.
And we're desperate here for a higher tech workforce. You know, it's not it's high tech, high impact jobs. You know, that companies that's what 1 million cups is trying to be all about. You know, that's what the economic development in the state of South Carolina. We lust after high impact, high tech jobs. All right, but along the way we bring a Volvo. Along the way we bring a BMW manufacturing. Along the way we bring Mercedes-Benz into Charleston area. Along the way we bring Angel's company here. Angel's a startup company, and Angel's startup company is doing something that hadn't been done in South Carolina in decades, and that's doing printed circuit boards.
That's he's in Georgia, but that's
in Georgia, all right. But it's still it's not heard of around here. You know, you got some folks that can do batter boards, you know, or whatever they're called. You know, it just mock-ups and everything else. But when you say, okay, well, I'm ready to go into production, you got to send them overseas somewhere, you know, to get done. Well, so the avenues that we've got here, you know, as part of the state of South Carolina, our technical college system is recognized globally for being able to field that trained workforce. I don't think there's been a challenge that we failed against. We've done a little better in some than others, but you know, we meet the objective as far as the workforce is concerned.
Those are amazing resources and fantastic that these sort of opportunities and assistance is available. And I agree with you, you've got to get the word out. If we got this word out back west, I can imagine a number of firms will be looking very closely and figuring out how to move out here. As a matter of fact, many are, because California is seeing quite an export. But this is exciting times to be out here, Tom, and witnessing all of this growth. And it is going to be wonderful to see what it does for our economy. And the number of houses that are being sold are a testament that, in fact, they are still growing incredibly fast. Tom, any other comments or thoughts about either the patent issues or the China issues that you think are impacting us?
We have seen the direct impact of reshoring, you know, coming back here right now. All right, so we're seeing. I was talking to Department of Commerce representatives last week. First week back, and he said their host book, where, you know, for folks that say, I want to come to South Carolina, I'm coming into South Carolina, I want to meet with you, is dominated by companies that are wanting to bring their manufacturing back.
Excellent.
All right, so
excellent.
It makes. Is it the start of a brave new world? Not yet. But they're wanting to come. Our biggest concern right now is a scalable workforce, and I'm sure you know that's on every manufacturer's mind right now. Is where's my next trained workforce going to come from?
Right. Are they going to rely entirely on outside, or are they going to themselves create their own training programs and curriculums for?
Well, you know, we can do that too. You know,
you can help.
You know, that is our stock in trade is taking production processes and making training programs out of it. Right. So that's the end result of what we try to do.
Right. Exactly. Wonderful. Thank you, Tom. Guys, we're hitting near the end of the program here. Let's get back to the main thing. I can close on. Let's see what's going on. There's a few more slides here. Okay, next month we will get back to a regular scheduled program where we talk about networking for inventors and innovators. Next slide. We'll also be talking about, we are continuing associated with 1 million cups. Next slide. Our friends and folks here at Midland Technical College, thank you. And Rotary International, we're helping spread the news. Next month, we'll also talk about, again, new tools and opportunities and all the other contests and things that are going on. Meanwhile, next slide, please call your senator. U.S. Inventor needs your help right now, this week, actually tonight, tomorrow, anytime you can actually get on the phone. Next slide, please.
Yeah.
We're gonna, if you remember back, Randy, here we are back 5-6 years ago with Steve Lyon and gosh, great crew there, Warren Tuttle and Paul. And anyway, the point is we were here and this small group that you're seeing stood up in front of a congressional meeting and stopped what was $100 million worth of lobbying that was aimed towards passing a bill called HR 9. It actually had passed, and we were the first inventors ever to be listened to. They had heard nothing but from lobbyists. And so it showed us that, gee, there needs to be a voice in Washington. Thank you, Randy. Next slide. That's when the three of us actually got together and formed U.S. Inventor based on what really Randy and Paul have been starting and doing. I was honored to delight and join them. We worked to create awareness and went to Congress and went to Washington and did demonstrations and tried to raise
Whose
awareness.
patent are you burning there? That's what I want to know.
Josh brought a bunch of them. I brought one. A bunch of us brought our patents there. And
yeah, I burned one of mine for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Of course, that doesn't mean you actually lose your patent.
No, I
if you
know,
burn
I
it,
know.
right?
you can order another one. It'll come in the mail in 2 weeks. But the point is, it was a visual, and it shocked the world. There's people that are still surprised that anything like this could ever happen. The sad thing was the people in the patent office weren't even looking out their window. They had no care at all that we were representing the people they work for, and they weren't even noticing it or paying attention.
Well, but I tell you what, the couple things happened from the patent burning. One, you may recall at the time, so the head, if we have a minute for me to say something.
Go ahead.
So at that point in time, Michelle Lee had resigned as director. You know, usually the new president always appoints a new director of the patent office. And amazingly, the director of the patent office that was there, that basically created this the one that was such a huge problem for us, she was the former head of patent strategy at Google. How about that? And you know, big tech they're the group that's trying to keep the system broken because they don't want to have to compete with a great inventor with something that could really compete with them. So anyway, the person who was acting head of the patent office, a guy named Joe Mattal, he actually came down and talked to us. I don't know if you remember, Adrian. He came down and talked to us, and actually we got him to come to speak at the Tampa Bay Inventors Council, where I'm a board member. But he was the guy in line to become the director. And problem is, he's part of the deep state, and he was a staff member back in 2011, and he actually was one of the guys that wrote the America Invents Act, which was the terrible law that's hurting us so much. So he was like the worst guy we could have as director of the patent office. So we did the protest, and through a couple of sources we have, I'm pretty certain the information got to the administration, to the Trump administration, and Trump actually appointed somebody pretty good.
Yeah.
And who tried to do some good things, who really faced a lot of pressure. In the end, didn't get much done for us, but at least he didn't make it worse. But now Biden's about to appoint somebody who's connected to big tech. And
right back to where we were. Right.
Exactly.
Iancu was a breath of fresh air, but we're right back. And tomorrow's decision is huge. Next slide. U.S. Inventor has been so instrumental in bringing awareness out and to teach people. Next slide. By the way, thanks to UIA, we had this Inspire event earlier last fall, and it was a delight, Randy, to be on that panel with you and Josh, and to actually see Congressman Sheila Jackson come in and give us that award. The fact is that we're bringing awareness up, and so here's the issue that we're standing on right now today. We need people to get on the phone and talk to the senators, because you're exactly right on the point, Randy, that the nomination that President Biden has put up is a clone of Michelle Lee, if not worse. And she's already voiced her opinions on the questions we were able to get her to answer on. that really exposed that she has, in my opinion, absolutely no concerns or interest about the small independent inventor. Just as you said, we are the next Google that might overlap the new one. We are the next Facebook that might overlap. We are the next generation of any inventors create the next better anything. And right now we're being stopped. And so yes, it's a very pivotal point in time in history. And we've made a major effort last couple days. Chris, this is again part of our whole why I've been pushing this the last few days, hoping UIA would at least help share the information. I understand.
Yeah, and they actually did. They actually did.
Yeah, well, I know there's a difference between taking a stance and actually sharing it, but at least if we get them to share it, that's as good as we get right now. We'll take it, right?
Yeah.
Thanks. Well, this is again, USI is the voice. I was very again proud to join you there, Randy, and happy again still to be supporting you as a 501c4. We're the strongest lobbying group for the independent American inventor.
Yeah, we're kind of making ourselves hard to ignore. That's the key. You know, they used to be able to, you know, do whatever they wanted. Now we're on them. You know, we get a lot of inside info about what's about to happen, and we're very persistent, and they can't get rid of us.
Awesome. Well, Randy, I'm so proud of you, and really impressed that you've been so persistent and patient and keeping up the good fight. And I was so amazed at the last meeting last week. We had 50 people on that call. Yeah. Other group leaders, club leaders. I saw Alan Beckley. I saw our friend Chris. It was amazing, 50 people and some amazing lawyers, professors. I mean, this is really congealing. The message is getting across, but I still have to, again, ring that same bell. Please get a major celebrity.
We got
not going to really,
you know what?
Until we hit that.
Help us find one. I'm not sure who.
Well, Christopher, you're there. You've been.
Yeah, you're a celebrity now.
You've rubbed some elbows. Come on, we're getting closer. We could use any help.
I'll help any way I can.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, I tell you what would help if somebody got on Shark Tank, and when they say, do you have a patent, and if that person were to say, you know what, the problem is our patent system has gotten so weak because of what's happened legislatively in the last few years that I'm really, I don't know, someone needs to actually bring it up on Shark Tank. Anyway.
Don't forget though, they can edit it out. That's the beauty. I filmed like what, an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And I was on the grand finale, so you get an extra 7 minutes, you get 15 minutes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff they edited out. A lot.
I'm sure. Yeah, sure. And you know what? Honestly, what we talk about at US Inventor is kind of a buzzkill, you know, and so they would probably take it out. Anyway.
I mean, you know, I joke, it's entertainment first. They don't care about the product. That's secondary. It's entertainment.
Yeah.
They want you crying. They want you fighting. They want the close-up to your face, all that stuff.
It's Hollywood, man. Well,
it really is.
Christopher, you rocked it. I mean, you did the whole thing. You put it on the crown. Damn, it doesn't get any.
I wanted them to carry us in like Caesar. And they said because it was COVID, no one else could come in.
Yeah, you showed up to blow up. You did awesome. You're great.
I'll tell you the funny story real quick, Adrian, on that suit, right? Think about the colors.
Yeah.
We weren't planning on wearing that, right? We were planning on wearing something else. And I happened to walk into the store looking for a shirt, and I saw that. So I took a picture. I sent it to Judy, my Judy. She said, "Oh, hell no." I sent it to my Brandy. She said, "No." I sent it to my kids. One of them said, that's pretty, that might pop. I said, you know what? I'm going to put it on. I put it on. I sent a picture to the producer. They said, yes, Judy, go find a pink one.
Yeah, good show. Great showmanship. Great show. Hey, folks, this has been an awesome evening, lively discussion, great information and points of view, and some constructive suggestions and things I see moving forwards that I've got give me great hope for our future. I want to thank you all again for pitching in tonight and contributing. And here I'm thanking our sponsors that came in last year and supported us. Next screen. Especially here, Tom, thank you so much. It's been a delight working with you here, and thank you so much for hosting us. Our next slide is keep those wheels. And the next slide is, that's the next slide. Happy New Year's, folks. And that'll wrap it up for us. Unless anybody has any last comments, we're going to sign off now. And
all right. Thanks, Adrian. Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody. Appreciate it.
All right.
Y'all have a
Thank you,
great
everybody.
evening.
Take care. See you around.
All right,
Take
see you.
care.
Angel, thanks for hanging in with us, buddy. All right.
Loved it. Enjoyed every moment.
Awesome.
Right.
Have an inventive day, guys.
All right.
Bye now.
Take care.
Good night.